Good morning. The secret of success is being solution-oriented, not problem-oriented, and having faith that for every problem an inherent solution exists.
Good morning. Welcome to today's Satsang. The topic today is I live without fear. So, as always, let's start with a prayer. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great masters of Kriya Yoga, Jesus Christ, Bhagwan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, our beloved Guru Deva, Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, dear friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda, humbly we bow at thy feet. O great ones, be with us today and always. Help us to feel thy tangible presence, tune into thy guidance, thy joy, thy blessing, thy bliss. Guide our thoughts and words, actions, in all that we do. We are thine, be thou eternally ours. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We'll start with a chant. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Brahmananda Parama Sukhada Kevalam Jnanamurte Dvandvatita Gagana Sadrisha Dvatvamasya Divdaksha Ekam Nityam Vimalamachala Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunaраhitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Tvameva Mata Tvamita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhu Ch Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. The next chant is I am the bubble, make me the sea. If you know the chant, sing along. So
The next chant is I am free. I am nothing, I am free in myself, I am free. I am no one, I am free in myself, I am free. I need nothing, I am free in myself, I am free. I need no one, I am free in myself, I am free. In myself, I am free. In myself, I am free. I am free, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am joyful, I am free. In myself, I am free. I am blissful, I am free. In myself, I am free. I am nameless, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am formless, ever free. In myself, I am free. I know nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. I am no one, I am free. In myself, I am free. I need nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. I need no one, I am free. In myself, I am free. In myself, I am free. In myself, I am free. I am free, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am joyful, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am blissful, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am needless, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am formless, ever free. In myself, I am free. I know nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. I know no one, I am free. In myself, I am free. I need nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. I need no one, I am free. In myself, I am free. In myself, I am free. In myself, I am free. I am free, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am joyful, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am blissful, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am nameless, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am formless, ever free. In myself, I am free. I need nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. I am no one, I am free. In myself, I am free. I need nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. I need no one, I am free. In myself, I am free. In myself, I am free. In myself, I am free. I am free, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am good, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am blissful, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am nameless, ever free. In myself, I am free. I am formless, ever free. In myself, I am free. I need nothing, I'm free. In myself, I am free. I don't know when I am free. In myself, I am free. I don't know when I am free. In myself, I am free. I don't know when I am free. In myself, I am free. I need nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. I need no one, I am free. In myself, I am free.
As we continue to meditate, let us do this affirmation by Swami Kriyananda. This is affirmation for courage. Continue to be inward as I read out the words. There are three kinds of human courage: blind, passive, and dynamic. Blind courage doesn't count the cost until it finds itself faced, horror-stricken, with the will. Passive courage is the strength of will to adjust to reality, whatever it may be. And dynamic courage is the strength of will not only to accept reality, but to confront it with another reality of one's own making. There is a fourth kind of courage, not human, but divine. Divine courage comes from living in the awareness of God's presence within and in the realization that He is the sole reality. Live more in Him, for nothing and no one can touch what you really are. Now we will do the affirmation. As always, first we will do it loudly. This is to bring the the thoughts in the mind that are running wild under control, bring the mind to focus on what we are saying. Next, we will do in a normal voice. After that, we will whisper, which is to take it deep into our subconscious mind to bring all those the soldiers in the subconscious mind to help us in this what we are trying to do. And lastly, as we gaze up into the spiritual eye, we do this mentally. I will say them out, but you do this mentally, planting it in the superconscious mind to be drawn whenever we need that courage. So the affirmation goes like this. First, loud. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. Now, in normal voice, I live protected in God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. Now, more softly, do it with deep concentration and faith. I live protected in God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. Now, in a whisper, taking it into the subconscious mind, I live protected in God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. Now, sitting up straight, spine erect, gazing into your spiritual eye, tuning into the superconscious mind. I will say it loud. You do this mentally. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. Continuing to gaze into the spiritual eye, I say out this prayer, you follow this mentally. I look to thee for my strength, Lord. Hold me closely in thy arms of love. Then, whatever happens in my life, I shall accept with joy. I look to thee for my strength, Lord. Hold me closely in thy arms of love. Then, whatever happens in my life, I accept with joy. Just a moment in silence with this prayer. Om Shanti Shanti. And now we will have readings. First, Purvi will come with Whispers from Eternity. And then I invite Shashank after that to read from Essence of Bhagavad Gita.
Reading from Whispers of Eternity. Demand to be able to conquer fear. Infinite Spirit, teach me to comprehend the utter uselessness of being afraid. Help me to keep in mind that even death, since come it must, at least comes once only, and need not be suffered 1,000 times beforehand through fear. When death does come, it will be by nature's mercy. When it comes, I will welcome it in my soul, for I will understand that it is time for me to move on, lowering the curtain on this life's drama, but traveling perhaps to something new and equally interesting. Let me not be a psychological antique, fearing change. Teach me not to paralyze my nerves, daily with the dread of some future imaginary accident. Such dread may only invite the accident to happen. Bless me that I not let fear anesthetize my mind and shut off my unlimited power as thy child to overcome all tests and trials. Help me to realize that whether I'm awake or asleep, alert or dreaming, thine all protecting presence encircles me always. Help me to see that neither mighty fortress nor the wealth of cresses could protect me from disease, earthquakes, and all kinds of accidents, that thou alone art my protector, and that though I walk where bullets fly or where swarms of bacteria abound, I am ever safe and hallowed in thy all sheltering light. Om.
Good morning, everyone. This reading is from Essence of Bhagavad Gita, as explained by Master Paramhans Yogananda and as remembered by Swami Kriyananda. A journey of thousands of miles must begin with a single step. Never should one become discouraged. Discouragement itself is simply a characteristic to be fought and conquered by the steady, indomitable pressure of resolute courage. If one thinks, I simply don't have that kind of courage, know that you can develop it in time. Every human trait is born in the mind. There is nothing man can achieve or even conceive that is inaccessible to any other human being. The Bhagavad Gita, however, teaches more than the need to overcome our individual faults and weaknesses. It also gives practical methods for sweeping every obstacle out of the way. One such method is described in chapter 4, verse 35, where Krishna tells Arjuna of the importance of the Guru, or a spiritual savior. A Guru is more than a mere teacher. The power of the Guru can transform his magnetism to that disciple who tunes in to his consciousness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Purvi and Shashank. So, starting with the talk, uh, Paramhansa Yogananda used to tell a story, and it must be a mythical story of a village where three people died of some mysterious disease. No one knew what it was. It was some unknown disease that happened to all of them. So they went, the villagers together went to this sadhu who was living on the outskirts of this village and told him that this is happening here. The sadhu said, okay, let me see what I can do. He meditated and he realized that it was a demon who was doing this, creating this problem. So he summoned a demon and told him, look here, this village is under my protection. Leave it alone. The demon promised. He said, okay, I will not do anything. A week passed. Another 100 had died. The people panicked. They came rushing to the sadhu and said, your prayers don't seem to have worked, Swami. 100, almost 100 people have died. There seems to be an epidemic. And this village seems to be under some curse. What do we do? The sadhu was surprised. So he again summons the demon and he said, I told you to leave them alone. You broke your promise. You promised me, but you broke your promise. The demon said, no, master. I agree. The first three I killed, but the others died of fear. It wasn't my doing. Interesting what fear can do. The dictionary meaning of fear is an unpleasant feeling that is triggered by a perception of threat, real or imagined. And what causes it? Well, there was this experiment that one psychologist called Watson from John Hopkins University in the US. He did an experiment. He called it Little Albert experiment. So what he did was he took a 9-month-old baby as a subject, and he would put a white rat in front of it, a rabbit, white rabbit, and other furry animals and various stuff in front of the baby. And this baby didn't have any fears as such. He had no fear, so he would happily go touch, out of curiosity, touch all of them and see what it was. After some time, what the professor and others who were doing this experiment did was, when they placed the rat in front of the baby and it was about to touch, they would clang a steel bar with a hammer loud. They would make a loud noise, and the baby would get fearful and start crying. It will start howling. They kept doing it for some time. Every time the baby would reach out, the noise would come and the baby would get scared and it would start howling. After some point of time, what happened was, whenever they even brought the rat in front of the baby, it would start howling. Not even touching, no noise, nothing. It would just seeing the rat would start howling. Same with all furry animals, rabbit, even Santa's mask, it would start crying. So what he was trying to prove here was that classical conditioning plays a central role in the development of fear and phobias. Now, this experiment is quite unethical because you're using a 9-month-old baby who didn't give you the permission to use him as the subject, and did some experiments that might have created phobias for a lifetime for that baby. But the time when he did this experiment was early 1900s. There might not have been very many guidelines and rules and regulations. Probably got away with it. But why I spoke about this experiment is because Master said that all of us have lived millions of lifetimes and of course died millions of times. We have had various life forms and many of them human life form. Some of them would have been very nice. We would have had friends, loved ones, family, money. We would have been kings and queens, soldiers with a lot of valor who went to battle for the country, and many of them would have been painful. We would have had diseases, died a painful death, had people who betrayed us, many experiences. And all these experiences, when we die, we just drop the body and go. But all these experiences, these impressions are there on the astral body, astral spine, and we carry it lifetime after lifetime with us in various forms, degrees different. And what happens is, whenever we see, as the description goes, that even a perception of threat can be real or just an imaginary one. That's the subconscious mind throws out that impression, that fear that we had of what we had. We don't remember those instances, experiences as such, but something will trigger and then the fear comes, the phobias come. Unexplained. Like I have a friend, she has this phobia for flying. There is no experiences, any experience that she had when she had a bad experience with flying in this lifetime, but she would get very scared if they have to go somewhere. So the family, normally they would try to go by road or by train. But if there's a place where you don't have any of these other options and you have to fly, they would give her some tranquilizer so that her nerves are down and she can sleep through the experience. It was that scary for her, unexplained. And many people have many phobias, and some the other fears also in various degrees. Almost all of us, except the saints who live without fear. The rest of us in various degrees have fear. Fear of failure is one thing that affects people. Loss of reputation, loss of power, loss of possessions, loss of a loved one. So loss of death and dying, accidents of your own body, getting any diseases, and loss of unknown. The fear of unknown. Ghosts is one thing that a lot of people fear. As children, all of us would have had that uncle or a friend who would tell story of how they stepped out and they were confronted by this ghost, or they just saw something passing, and we were all fascinated when we hear it. But then it later on turns into some kind of fear when you're sitting alone, the light goes off and there is some fluttering. There is this fear that, oh, what is this, and there's a nice story in Autobiography of a Yogi, when Master visits his guru, Sri Swami Sri Yukteswar Giri's house, and he asks him to tell him some stories of his childhood. And Sri Yukteswar tells about the story of his mother when she used to tell him, in that chamber, dark chamber, there is a ghost that lives there. And Sri Yukteswar, he was a young boy. He said, oh, is it? He went in and opened the chamber, and he says, I showed my displeasure and disappointment at not having met this ghost. But a lot of mothers do that, right? Eat your food, otherwise, this will happen, that will come. There is a famous dialogue also in an iconic Hindi movie. So anyways, without realizing, mothers probably do this because it's more convenient. They can finish off their chores, but not realizing that probably they are creating some fear or phobia in the child's mind. So there it is. So various, as I said, there are various fears that many of us have. And this fear, any fear for that matter, it kind of creates a static on our mind. It's like when we try to tune into a radio station and I want to listen to a program or a music, and if there is a static, there's a lot of disturbance. You can't hear it properly. That is something what a fear also does. It creates a static on the mind where we lose our ability to think clearly, to find a solution, or come to any good solution to what we need to do. These are two types basically. A fear is of two types. One is the cautious fear, which is still okay because you make certain provisions. I mean, if I'm stepping out, I'm going to take my car, I just check if the brake is working properly or not, which is okay. And people sometimes make some provision for future in case there is some disease or something, hospitalization. So they try to do some insurance policy, as long as they're not thinking too much of it, but they're just being, even that is static, but it's okay. I mean, you still do it. But then there is this fear that's a slavish fear, where you panic, you're worried, you start worrying about something that keeps coming back to you. Any fear, when you have the thought of the fear, it affects that part of the brain which is associated with fear. And then that the brain starts sending signals to the body. So the body starts releasing hormone, and then the heart starts pumping faster. There's a churning in the stomach. The whole body goes into a fight or flight readiness. We should imagine somebody who is always constantly having these fear thoughts. See what they must be going through. The mind is completely in a state of unrest. The body is constantly creating this kind of fight and flight situation. How affected they will be physically and mentally. And many people go through that when they are in that state. So having said that, what do we do? What do we do about this? Since, as I said, all of us have fear of something or the other, maybe on a smaller degree or larger degree, but then what do you do about it? So I can think of some things that we can do. One is looking fear in the face, facing the fear. I mean, running away from that is never going to help. So there is this beautiful story from the Mahabharata of Krishna and his brother Balram. And these are all, some of them are allegorical stories. So they are young boys and they go on a stroll uh, from Vrindavan into this forest. They go exploring the forest. And it, by the time they realize it becomes dark. So they decide, okay, tonight let us stay back in the forest because we might lose our way on the way back. So let us stay here. And they decide one of us sleeps, the other keeps guard. So first, Balram being the elder one, he says, okay, you sleep, I'll keep guard. So Krishna sleeps off. Balram is sitting there. And then suddenly this demon arrives and he says loudly, what are you doing here? It's my area. Balram, scared. He doesn't know what to do. He says, who are you? And he's all worried. He's shivering. And the demon becomes bigger and he disappears. After some time, he again comes and he again confronts him. Again, Balram is very scared. Again, he grows a bit more. This demon becomes more bigger, huge. Again, he disappears. He does this two or three more times. And by the time Balram is completely a nervous wreck, he faints. And this demon had grown in size. And after some time, Krishna wakes up. He sees Balram. He thinks he's sleeping. He had actually fainted. So Krishna says, okay, let me keep guard. So he gets up and he's keeping guard of the place. Again, the demon comes. Again, he hollers at him like, what are you doing here? And Krishna, very unaffected, he says, what? What do you want? The demon is not sure what to do. He becomes smaller a little bit. And he keeps doing it 2-3 more times. And all the time, Krishna is completely unaffected. To the extent that finally the demon became a size of a finger. Krishna very happily picked him up and put him in a pocket and waited the night. Morning, when they were going back home, Balram said, you know what happened? This was this demon who had come and he... So Krishna said, which demon? Are you talking about this fellow? And Balram is surprised. He says, what is this? He was so huge and he kept growing big. He said that was because you were getting scared, and the more you were getting scared, you kept giving power to this demon. And that's what all of us do, right? When we keep getting scared, this the fear completely takes over and keeps getting more power and controls us rather than us being in control of the situation. So it's good to remain calm. And how does this calmness come? The more we meditate, the calmness will come, right? And other thing is being detached to any situation. If we are doing something, then not being attached to the results, because the moment you start expecting things, you get attached to results, you start getting fearful. What if I fail? So Swamiji also said that, worries aside, for some future event that is going to happen, so keep future energy for future event, not use the current energy for some imaginary future event that might or might not happen. But in continuously giving energy to this thing that you are fearing, you are actually magnetizing that situation to you, which was probably not going to happen. But the more you kept thinking about it, you magnetized it to you. So he said, try to be detached and not so. And the more you relax, the more you, as I said, the more you are relaxed in any time, any situation, the more you will be able to handle it. Even if if were to happen, you will be able to think calmly. And for that, you need to practice this thing. Because when it arrives, it's difficult to think or do whatever we want to. So the more in good times we practice this, it becomes a practice, it becomes a habit. So as I said, meditation is very good. And those of us who are on the path of Kriya Yoga is a beautiful technique that our masters have given us. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, even a little practice of this inner religion saves you from dire fears and colossal suffering. So that's very important, very helpful. And most important, according to me, is faith. It's like when there is a 2-year-old child. This 2-year-old child never worries. Tonight is my mom. What if she doesn't give me dinner? No 2-year-old ever worries, right? That's how it just goes around its work, whatever the play. When it's time to eat food, it goes and it expects a mother to provide it for the baby. That's how a child lives. That is the attitude we all should live. Be the child of the Divine Mother. We are all children of Divine Mother. I remember, my daughter when she was a little one. Now she's quite grown up. When she was 3-year-old, and we were living in Pune at that time, and she went to this kindergarten, and they had this annual function where all the children had some or the other role to do. Either they are dancing, or they were part of the drama, or singing, or whatever. So she was part of a group that was performing some dance. They were anacondas. So these were the cutest anaconda I ever seen, all dressed up in greens. And so they were practicing a lot for some time. And that morning she asked me, will you be there? I said, yes, of course I will be there. And I ensured I went a bit early so that I found a seat almost right in the front. And I realized there were many parents with the same thought. So I got a seat on the second or the third row. And the program started. Various children were doing their stuff, and when the anacondas entered, she came there. She was doing, but her eyes were seeking. She was looking far beyond. I was right in front, and she was looking, where can I spot my mother? And so I had to then gesture to her in the very subtle way that I could, because I was almost in the front. And finally her eyes saw me. The moment she saw me, she relaxed. And after that, her performance was completely relaxed, fully confident. After that, I don't think she even saw me even once. She knew I was there. So the very thought that, yes, my mother is here, was enough for her to perform to the best of her ability. And that's all that we all need to do. As I said, we are all children of God. My master said, look at God as your Divine Mother, and she is right there. And for I got a second or the third row, the Divine Mother would have taken the VIP seat. And those of us who are in this path, we have Divine Mother and all the gurus, all of them occupying the front row, the VIP seat. Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Sri Yukteswar, our master. Our master said, those who think of me near, I will be near. But we forget, no, when we are caught up, we are all grown up. We think we are all grown up and we have our own issues, our own problems. And when we have those problems, I have to handle that situation. I need to figure out what to do. And we forget that the masters and Divine Mother are sitting right there, watching us perform our role in this stage of life. And anytime needed, they can rush up. But we forget. We don't remember to practice the presence of them, masters and Divine Mother. So then what happens? We are worried, we are fearful, we mess up, and then we blame them. They didn't help me. But you didn't call out. You didn't look out for them. They were ready to help. So this is something that all of us have to practice. Swamiji always said, and Master also said, practice it in good times. That's when it will become a habit to do it when actually, if ever, the situation comes. And also remember, tests will always come, especially those on the spiritual path. But these tests are more a blessing because they help us to grow, learn a lesson, and be free of that so that we can evolve faster. And Swamiji said in his book, The New Path, there is a chapter where there are stories after stories of how the master helped his disciples. And Swamiji writes that I don't think of a Even a single instance when a disciple didn't find uh, help from a master in time of need. We need to remember all these. The stories are given to help us understand that this is what is the power of being in tune with a self realized master. Any misfortune, he takes away. He only gives us that which is needed to grow on the spiritual path. Only that lesson that we can take, and that is necessary. Anytime he feels that a particular lesson has been already learned, he takes away that karma and he doesn't let us go through it. So, this is something that all of us need to remember, the presence. So, in summary, I would say your use our willpower, use be solution oriented rather than being in the consciousness of problem, and be detached, relax more, do your kriya, and most importantly, have faith. Practice the presence of God and gurus in our lives. And when we do all of this, we can all say, I live without fear. Thank you so much. We will have an arati. I request Sunny to play a chant for us, and we can do the arati, and then we will end it with a healing prayer. After the healing prayer, please stay because we will play the song by Swamiji on the same topic. I live without fear.
If you have an altar, please join, offering your devotion. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram.
Um, let's pray to the Divine Mother for healing all those souls who are in need. With gratitude in our hearts, Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent, thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, in all minds, and in all souls. Rubbing her hands together, sharing the blessings. Let's chant Om 3 times. Divine Mother, may thy love shine on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to share thy love with all those whom we meet. We are thine mother, be thou eternally ours. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you everyone for joining today's satsang. Joy to you all. Have a good Sunday.
summer fade and winter draw near, my Lord, in your presence I live without fear. Through tempest, through snows, through turbulent tide, the touch of your hand is my strength and my guide. I ask for no riches that death can destroy. I crave only thee, your love and your joy. I ask for no riches that death can destroy. I crave only thee, your love and your joy. The dancers will pass, the singing must end. I welcome the darkness with you for my friend. The green summer fade and winter draw near, my Lord, in your presence I live without fear. Through tempest, through snows, through turbulent tide, the touch of your hand is my strength and my guide. I ask for no riches that death can destroy. I crave only thee, your love and your joy. I ask for no riches that death can destroy. I crave only thee, your love and your joy. The dancers will pass, the singing must end. I welcome the darkness with you for my friend.